Have you ever felt like everyone has gotten their life together except you? Those random thoughts that come into your head, that come in midday, and you just think, how does Peter do so well in his classes while taking 6 AP classes, taking IB classes as well, being president of his coding club, and taking both cross-country and track? How is he so smart and well-rounded? Why can't I be like him? We tend to gravitate towards comparison as a way to measure our self-worth, but it only makes us feel worse in the end, and actually it doesn't solve any of our problems. In a world with 8 billion people and social media, it's easier than ever to gravitate towards comparison. And when we tend to gravitate towards comparison because we think it's a measure of our self-worth, but it's actually not. And really, it doesn't solve any of our problems and makes us feel worse. So in this video, I wanted to talk about how I think comparison is very toxic and should not be practiced unless under circumstances. First, I want to point out that no comparison is actually fair. And what do I mean by no comparison is fair? Well, no comparison is fair because we come from different backgrounds, different races, different financial circumstances, and different childhoods. Like, we live very, very different lives, and even twins are different from each other. So it's not easy to compare yourself to another person. It's actually not fair to compare yourself with another person because we have different personalities, different strengths and weaknesses, and different ways of living, and different ways that we have lived in the past. So let's take the example of Peter. Peter, as I said, was highly intelligent, had great leadership skills in his coding class, and even did cross-country and track. It's great to look up to Peter, and maybe even feel a tad bit jealous because he's so great at all these things. But we're only seeing one side of the equation. We're not seeing the whole picture yet. So when we meet someone, we usually don't see all aspects of someone's life. Let's go back to the example of Peter. Peter could have been really well prepped and great at all these things because his parents invested a lot of money to send him to prep school when he was very young. Or he could be just really motivated to do well because his father passed away last year, and he wants to make the family proud. Or he has really strict parents that doesn't let him go out and he must study all day. There could be a number of reasons why he is so smart, so dedicated, and is able to balance so many things. So we don't usually see the full picture of someone's story. When we compare ourselves to them, it is unfair because we don't know how we're comparing our situation to their situation. Like, no one's situation is the same. And even if you live in the same family, we all have different circumstances within that family. You shouldn't try to compare yourself to others because it really isn't a great way to measure yourself with another person. So there could be a number of reasons why Peter could have been really academically well-rounded and really intelligent. But most of the time, when comparing ourselves to others, we selectively choose what we want to hear and selectively choose what we want to know from others. Secondly, I want to point out that the only fair comparison is with yourself. This is because we know ourselves the best, and we know where our limits lie, where our potentials lie, and it isn't fair to compare to someone else that you don't even know. We can accurately measure how far we have improved on something or not because we know where we came from and how we have progressed over time. But we don't know this about other people. And if you do, you aren't an expert at all aspects of someone else's life. Only you know you the most. Everyone is unique in their own way. We all have our comparative advantages, and sometimes it's hard to see. Usually we have something that we're good at that someone isn't, and something that we're bad at that someone isn't. Most of the time, it's hard to see through someone when they look like they have the whole package. They have a good personality, they're intelligent, they're humorous, etc. And it's really hard and difficult when you only see the surface of things. Oftentimes, we only see the surface of someone and don't really know what is going on deep down. A lot of people can hide their feelings and emotions, and they may be a whole different person with outside of school, and you don't know that. Comparing yourself to others is not really fair because you can only compare to yourself because only you know where your circumstances lie, where you have been, and what your true story is. So stop comparing yourself to others and let's be grateful for the things that we have that others don't and cherish these moments. Comparison will be a never-ending cycle. And why is that? Well, that is because you will always find someone that's funnier, that's calmer, that's smarter than you. There's so many characteristics of people, and you in this world with 8 billion people, you'll definitely find someone that is better than you in some way. So we're all unique in every way, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And so it's really hard not to find someone who's better at you at tennis, or not better at you in academics, or not better at you in research. And we can't validate our worth on someone else because it will never be enough for you. If this is an external goal, this is not an internal goal. Like when you validate your worth on an external thing that you can't control, it will never feel enough for you, and you would always want to keep achieving and want to compare yourself to the other person and feel like you're never enough. So stop comparing yourself. So in this world and where the expectations are always changing, we are always changing as people, and is it fair to compare ourselves to others because of these differences? We all have our differences based on our culture, on what year it is even, and our background. And something that is excellent to someone else may be just okay to another. And so even in measurable things like grades, it's really difficult to compare yourself fairly to another person because they might have studied differently or they might have had another professor. You don't know what they have gone through unless you are truly in their shoes. But you are not. You are only you. So you can only control what you have within your ability to control things and not worry about others. So don't blame these things on external things. Just accept who you are and come to accept that you are unique in your own ways and that you shouldn't value other people failing or not doing well just because you want to do better. So just accept how you are and just remember that you can always be your best and do better next time. Next, I want to point out that we all have our own path. So I want to read to you this quote that I found years ago, and when I was making this video, I remembered this quote and it really resonated to what I'm talking about in this comparison to other video. So let me read you this quote. Someone graduated at the age of 22, but waited 5 years before securing a job. Someone became a CEO at 25 and died at 50. While another became CEO at 50 and lived to 90 years. Someone is still single, while someone from his high school group has become a grandfather. Obama retired at 55 and Trump started at 70. Everyone in this world works based on their time zone. People around you might seem ahead of you and some might seem to be behind you. But everyone is running their own race in their own time. Do not envy them. They are in their time zone and you are in yours. So relax, you're not late, you're not early, and you are very much on time. When I read this quote a few years back, kind of like resonated with me because at that point I was still in high school, but even in high school I felt like I was always behind others. I was like, oh, I gotta do well in my classes or else I wouldn't get into that college that I wanted and be able to get a job and this and that. After going into college, I realized there's so many different people. There are people who are in their 40s and taking classes in college. I once sat next to a guy that looked like he was in his 70s, and he was like literally taking the final next to me. It was a nutritional course, but I was quite shocked. I was like, dang, this guy looks like he's about to retire, but he's still taking college courses. And the other day, I was seeing this older Japanese woman on social media, and she was learning how to code because she was so bored during her retirement. And I was like, dang, look at this old woman go. Like, she's in her 70s and still learning how to code from scratch. So it is never too late is, I think, very true to an extent, because we all have our own set paths. And I'm not saying that our paths is already set before we're born. I mean, obviously you can change who you are as a person, and you could change how you confront things and want to change things, but really I want to stress too much about comparing my life with another's, because we may all have similar paths, but no one path will ever be the same. Comparison can blind you from living the life you want. If we always set ourselves and compare ourselves to others and base our worth on this, we won't ever live the life that we want, because we are setting goals and systems to live another person's life rather than living our own life. For example, in high school, I took speech and debate. I was part of the speech and debate club, and to be honest, I did not actually want to be in this club. I was a bit shy back then, and I'm still a little shy back now. But I didn't really like speaking in front of people at all, but I was convinced by upperclassmen that this would look good on my applications, and I had a few friends in it, so I joined. But looking back, I feel like I shouldn't have joined, and I should not have been constantly living in someone else's life. Like, if I had to choose again, I would have joined clubs that I liked, and not just to impress someone or the college that I go to, or because I admire someone that is doing it. By comparing yourself to others, you're constantly living in someone else's shadow. Basing your values on how others do isn't very stable, because we as people change all the time, and so do you. So you can only keep up with your own momentum and your own life path. So stop chasing someone else's life and start paving your own. We default to comparison when we don't feel confident about ourselves. We compare ourselves to others to temporarily make us feel good and be so-called better than that person. And even when we do become better than that person, it doesn't actually fulfill us in any way, because those are external things. And to truly make a life that's fulfilling and happy, we have to fulfill our own basic needs first, our own confidence with ourselves. So instead of comparing yourself to others, it's really important to work on your core values as a person and how you want to live your life. So stop comparing yourself to others, and time to take your own life in your own hands and live the life that you want. Thanks for joining me in this session, and I hope you got some key takeaways from this video. I really like talking about how these things, and personally these things have been a journey for me as well. In the past, I have always compared myself to others, and it wasn't really until recently in college and the senior year of high school with COVID and everything that I began to really work on my own life and really take in more confidence with my life and take these things into my own hands and stop comparing yourself to others, because it really isn't worth your time. Instead of constantly working to be someone else, you can create your own uniqueness and your own unique path and push that time towards those things that you really care about. So I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. See ya. Bye.